Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Krishna Mukherjee from ET Edge, welcoming you all to another exciting session by ET Edge Unwired and Data Talks powered by Commvault. Ladies and gentlemen, our today's discussion is different from the usual business talks, as today we are going to discuss business nirvana. So, what is happiness and what is business nirvana? Our scriptures have defined happiness as a state of mind, and also they provide us with solutions for each and every human problem. But can we solve some of our current business problems with our scriptures? Although we have applied various management techniques to run the business efficiently, but can we apply some mythological learnings into our businesses? Who else can help us with an answer to all this? Let me invite none other than Mr. Devdutt Patnaik, mythologist, speaker, and author, to help us confront problems with our strong arsenal of scriptures. Welcome, Mr. Patnaik. Thank you for joining us. Before I hand it over to him, let me remind our audience that we will be taking up questions at the end of this session. With that, over to you, Mr. Patnaik. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. No matter how many webinars one does, this does become awkward. One misses the pleasure of having people right in front of you. So, just and we have these kind of domestic issues like wires getting stuck. Yeah. So the topic today, we were talking about happiness and the path of happiness. We've all my life I've been giving workshops on change management. I've been helping people deal with technological change, and I've been called to meetings on change. But I don't think any one of us foresaw the change that we are going through right now. I mean, it's a phenomena that we have never seen. It's something that is unprecedented at a scale. And the thing is, nobody knows where this is going. We don't know when the vaccine will be ready. We don't know when the lockdown will end. We know nothing. Not the smartest minds in the world, the brilliant minds in the world. No one knows. No leader knows. And that uncertainty is a cause of great anxiety. But business has to go on. I'm being told I'm not audible. So can someone help me out here?
You're good here. Yeah, we can hear you, Mr. Patnaik.
I have got two messages from people saying unable to hear.
It could be their bandwidth issue, but meanwhile, our IT host would check that, but we can hear you.
Okay, okay. Just checking. You never know. These things are very unpredictable, so it's better to get checked.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So we are talking about when you want to grow. The thing about growth is that you have to change, and we all know that change is painful. But this kind of growth, when we are reading about when we are studying business, we always talk about unprecedented environmental factors. Here it is, an unprecedented environmental factor which has changed everything. And yes, it's an opportunity for some people, but over and all, the whole economy is going through a major change. And therefore, people are scared. There is a lot of anxiety out there. We are wondering what's going on, where to take. And the situation I compare this is with an episode in the Bible, in the Old Testament, which talks about Noah's Ark. Imagine Noah is on the ark with all the animals in the world waiting for the flood to end, but he doesn't know when the flood will end. And that's our situation today. We are all on an ark. We are with people. There's flood everywhere, and everybody's in the same boat, and you don't know when the flood will end, and that uncertainty is killing. Or you have the idea of Moses wandering through the wilderness, promised land. He was told that once he leaves Egypt, he will find the promised land. But when? He's traveling and there is no end in sight, and the uncertainty gets to you. Like, we live in this world. The thing is, when you talk about management, all our lives, when we studied management, we were told, you begin with the end objective. You have a vision statement, a mission statement. You have a objective, a goal. You have a very clear understanding of how things should proceed. But the fact is, right now, this is not very simple, because you don't know what the vision is. You don't know what the the objective is. You don't know where it is going. You're managing everything at a very tactical level. Strategic thinking is not easy in this current ecosystem. It's very tactical, and the thing is, you don't know how long this will last. So that is where we are, and this is where I feel an Indian model will help. Now, the Indian model is what I call business sutra. It's the phrase which I put together because, in management, if you don't have a kind of a model, nobody takes you seriously. And I have a model. The model is as is belief, so is behavior, so is business. Jaisa Vishwas, Vaisa Vyavahar, Vaisa Vyapar. Your business is a function of how people behave, right? How the employee behaves, how the customer behaves, how the regulator behaves, how the auditor behaves, how all of us behave. But our behavior depends on how we think. And right now, we are questioning our thinking because we don't have a clear cut goal and objective in mind. We are taking a day at a time. Everything is changing. There's lockdown, there's unlock, there is something happening here, there, bandwidth issues which are completely unpredictable. In this situation, the Indian model was designed around change and uncertainty. That's the unique thing about Indian model. Around the world, mythologies, and by mythology I mean cultural truths. So most cultural truths are designed around the notion of certainty, guarantee, full stop. This is going to happen, or the world has to be orderly. This is the way the world has to be organized. We have to follow these rules, these commandments. That's how the whole world thinks. Most of the world thinks. Indian philosophy is unique in that it celebrates uncertainty and accepts uncertainty. It says, इसलिए the famous line in the Gita, फल की चिंता मत करो. Focus on action, not on results. This is a class, you cannot say this in management because in management, your results have to be predictable. The whole purpose of management science is to make production, distribution, return on investment predictable. In unpredictable times, you need to shift gears a bit. And that is where Indian philosophy comes into picture because Indian thought was based on the monsoon, and the monsoon is unpredictable. Every year, sometimes there's a lot of water, sometimes there's less water. Bombay, even in the 21st century, we get all Bombayites get scared if the rains are delayed. And if there's too much rain, you are like, oh my God, there's going to be flood. And you have potholes coming regularly. The one thing, of course, is predictable in Bombay is potholes. But everything else is unpredictable. And the Indian model says, you know what? Let's look at the world differently. The Indian model, for example, is like this Jain model. The Jain model would say time goes through cycles of positivity and negativity. So in positive time, think negative because prepare for the negative, be paranoid. And in the negative time, think positive, things are going to get better. So the positive time was called Sushama and the negative time was called Dushama. The journey to the positive time was called Uttasarpini and to the negative was called Avasarpini, which means this is part of life. We know that the good times will come, we just don't know when. And just because a good time come doesn't mean it will be a good time for everybody. Things are going to change, the rate of change we don't know, it will be changed for everybody. What happens to manufacturing, what happens to information, what happens to technology, and the world politically is changing. People are getting frustrated, rules are changing. So lots of changes are happening around. And therefore, we have to look at the world differently. What is the belief we need to have? Now, this model in India said that, you know what? You have to, in order to understand one thing, remember the one thing which never changes. In an uncertain world, in an unpredictable world, the one thing which never changes is hunger. Human hunger. We don't use the word hunger in management. We use words like ambition or greed, but it basically means hunger. The difference between a living organism and a non living thing is that living organisms have hunger. And human hunger is special because this is both qualitatively and quantitatively very different. Qualitatively, it is different because we can imagine anything we want. We can imagine about, we're not just talking about food when you're talking about hunger. We are also talking about power. We're talking about comfort. We are talking about knowledge. Hunger, human hunger is qualitatively different because it also looks at metaphors. It looks at ideas. It looks at satisfaction. It is not just content with food. And quantitatively, it's different, is because all animals in the world, when fed, calm down. Humans, when fed, become even more hungry because we want tomorrow's hunger. We want guarantees. We want things to be, we want guarantees in life. We want कि आज का खाना, कल का खाना, 10 साल का खाना. So we are constantly, this hunger is what shapes us. And this is the area of focus. Your employees are hungry, your customers are hungry, we are all hungry. This won't change. It is the cornerstone of business. And we have to trust that people are hungry. The customer is hungry. He needs goods and services. Hungry. They need a job. The shareholder is hungry and therefore will look for investment opportunities. Everybody is hungry. It's just that the ecosystem is different. So they're trying to reorient and reframe their notion of hunger and their notion of how to get the food they want. Now, when we talk of hunger, Indian mythology divides the world into three parts. They say, you know what? The heaven, the concept of heaven is different for different people. For some people, heaven is a place where all is done. Swarg is the place where the devas live. It's paradise. They have the wish fulfilling cow, the wish fulfilling jewel. It is the place where you get whatever you desire without doing anything. It is the world where you get infinite returns with no investment. It is what we are aspiring for. I want the least investment and the maximum returns, and I want prosperity. And that is Swarga. That is where I want to go. We all are working towards Swarga. And in mythology, Swarga plays a very, very important role. The gods live in Swarga. They have everything that you desire. They are the rich people who are partying all the time. They are affluent and they are privileged and they have everything that you desire. The thing with Swarga is that those who live in Swarga, unfortunately, are an eternal stress. They will see the phrase is Indra ka Singhasan hamesha dagmagata hai. Because this constantly surrounded by the asuras who want their share of the wealth. Because when you keep everything for yourself, you create enemies, you create competitors, you create want a piece of the pie, which means you're always you're always in a battlefield. You are in a ranabhumi, which is how management is designed today. All the language that we use in management is violent. We use words like conquest and penetration and domination, and we use words like arsenal. We use words like fighting, winning. Business is needs to be seen differently, especially in such circumstances where people are losing their jobs, banks are collapsing, large number of people are starving. When the world is regenerating itself, we need a softer outlook. And hence the other heavens come into picture. The second heaven described is the heaven of Shiva. It is Kailasa. Now, this is the heaven where you are never hungry. You outgrow hunger completely. Bhooki nahi lagti hai. Now, it is this, you know how they describe it? They describe Shiva's Kailas as a mountain of snow covered with snow. So, Patthar ka mountain hai. There's nothing to eat there, but everybody is still content. So, there is no grass on Mount Kailas, but Shiva's bull is not hungry. Shakti rides a tiger, but the tiger is not attacking Shiva's bull. The snake around Shiva's neck is not running after Ganesha's rat. And Kartikeya's or Murugan's peacock is not running after Shiva's snake, serpent, which means nobody's hungry, which is great. So there is peace. Unfortunately, there is no prosperity, and no management person is going to like this world because they'll say, it's very nice, but I want my employees to be hungry. I want them to be ambitious. I want my customers to be hungry and ambitious. Otherwise, how will I grow? So, Kailas is a great idea after retirement. It is good for Gurujis. It is good when I'm totally stressed out. It is good for monks who want to sell their Ferrari. But it is not good for me. So, what is the third alternative? The third alternative they give is this concept of Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is Vishnu's heaven. And here it's the ocean of milk. And here there is prosperity. There is Lakshmi resides here. Lakshmi resides in Vaikuntha, but there is a difference. It is very different from Swarga. They all look, Vaikuntha is affluent too, a lot of wealth, but there is no conflict. There's collaboration. This is where it is Ranga Bhumi, not Rana Bhumi. You're not fighting to defeat someone. You're not trying to conquer your customers, bag your customers. You are not trying to retain and bind your employees. Here, everybody wants to collaborate because when you collaborate, you do Amrita Manthan. You churn the ocean of milk and release its treasures. You collaborate. The force and the counterforce works with each other, tangos with each other to create a different world. This is where Vishnu takes his avatars and solves problems. And the here is Vishnu looks at other people. He's constantly looking at other people's hunger. Indra is obsessed with his own hunger, his own. The Indian way says, Lakshmi aa sakti hai without conflict, through collaboration. When we look into each other's needs and work to satisfy each other's needs, things happen. We need to, when you see the Amrit Manthan, the churning of the ocean, which is a very famous story in Indian mythology, they show the Asuras and Devas on either side, but they are not playing a tug of war. The force and the counterforce work with each other. When the force is pulling, the counterforce is pausing. When the Asuras are pulling, the Devas are pausing. And you don't pull forever because otherwise the churning rope will be pulled up. So you see over here, a classic is I have to trust the other. I have to trust the other. I have to innovate. It is not all about pulling and it is not about tug of war. I have to churn, pause, pull, pause, pull. Manthana is samvad, it's collaboration, not conflict. Opposing forces working together is collaboration. In collaboration, you're not friends. You don't like each other. You're a force and a counterforce, but you work with each other, not against each other. And that's the greatest innovation. We live in a world where you have to get things done, where you have to be sensitive to other people's, and therefore your work-life balance is going on. How many of us are proactive about the problems that people are facing in their houses? How many of us are proactive about the problems living in the same house, husband and wife working, children going to school, all in the same flat? It is not going to be easy. There's going to be issues in the family. People are going to fight. While doing a webinar, somebody saying, keep quiet. I have got my homework to do. All these are real problems. So we need people to be proactive in a system. That is what Vaikuntha is all about. It's proactive, about creating an ecosystem of trust, of continuously innovating and improvising, because the world we don't know what's unpredictable. There are no guaranteed solutions. So to continuously think on your feet and you're aware of change, nothing lasts forever. Dwapara Yuga will change into Kali Yuga. Treta Yuga will turn into Dwapara Yuga. Sometimes you have to be Ram, sometimes you have to be Krishna, sometimes Narasimha, sometimes Mohini, sometimes different avatars to solve the problem. But remember, an avatar is solving other people's problem, not his own problem. Ram is not solving his problem. He's solving other people's problems. Krishna is solving other people's problems. It's a different mindset. And that is what this world is about. This is the Indian model where we are continuously engaging and enterprising. And yes, we want Lakshmi to walk our way, but we won't run after her. She will come to us because we are in Ranga Bhumi. We will perform so well that the audience will come again and again because they want a repeat performance. They will refer us to other clients because we really are doing a good job on the Ranga Bhumi. Not Ranabhumi, but Ranga Bhumi. That's the key word. So if you believe that the world is a Ranabhumi, then this crisis is going to make life worse. But if you believe the world is a Rangabhumi, not a Ranabhumi, but a Rangabhumi, a performance space, a theater, a stage where you have to perform, then you will look at the other and generate trust, be innovative, be proactive, embrace change. And in your world of data management, know that things will move ahead because everybody needs data. Everybody needs this. This is not going to work. Everybody will need that little data information. वो नहीं जाने वाला. वो भूख कभी नहीं मिटेगी data के लिए. In fact, Chanakya also recommended that a king cannot survive without spies, which means he needed information all the time. Of course, spy is a very negative word, but you know what I mean. We call it Alexa. With that, I come to an end to our session. We'll have a conversation with Josefa, a fire chat, and then So
Thank you, Mr. Patnaik. Wonderful. So, in a nutshell, we should go for Vaikuntha. And the key takeaways I'm taking from your session are collaboration, trust, and being proactive. Of course, now we will touch upon the data problem. And with that, let me invite Mr. Josefa Motiwala. Mr. Motiwala is Senior Director, Sales Engineering, Commvault APJ. And over to you, Josefa, for an exciting fireside chat with Mr. Patnaik. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krishna, and hello, sir. Always listen to you. I've been a big fan and been hearing you since first. And the three B's, as is belief, so is behavior, so is business. This just stands out, right? These are three big mantras. I just want to carry on from what you said, right? And believe me, in our day-to-day life, so businesses in our world, right? And the call would agree. These are unprecedented times, unprecedented in terms of volatility and uncertainty. What are your thoughts in terms of, from a leadership perspective, leading through this change, right? In terms of doing and stuff.
Sorry, I lost the last sentence I couldn't hear.
What are your thoughts in terms of the leadership skills of managing the change?
I think one of the biggest points that we need is empathy. People know their jobs, they know their tasks, they know what to do. So, what happens is many leaders focus on target and tasks because but leave that to the second in command. That should be with the chief operating officer. That should not be with the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And a simple example. The CEO needs to have empathy. He has to understand what people are going on today, what's going on in the market today. We have to understand that, everybody is scared. Your customer is scared, your employees are scared. You need to continuously create positive energy, because people know their jobs. They know there is a target to be achieved, tasks to be done. Not just now, the tasks are even home tasks. Bartan bhi manjna padta hai. Because, the buildings are not allowing support staff to come inside of the house. So, you'll have a CEO doing jhadu pocha also. So, you have to empathize. You have to empathize with the fact that this is happening. People are living in small houses. Not everybody has big flats. In smaller towns, maybe they can at least breathe. But in cities like Bombay and Delhi, it can be quite claustrophobic. But, so we have to understand, I think empathy is the key thing for senior leadership. And if you're having a conversation with people, spend at least the first 5 minutes checking on these facts of life. This is a great opportunity to create good teams. Because if you stand by people today, they will stand by after the COVID. दुनिया अभी COVID तो खत्म नहीं होगा ना. इसके बाद तो बहुत कुछ होने वाला है. Right now is a great opportunity to show that you are a person who cares. This is where loyalty is going to be built. This year, 2020. Is the year when loyalty will be built and we'll know I have to find someone else who will lead me. So this is great. I think this is a great time for leaders to prove their worthiness through empathy.
I think great. And this is where the wheat will separate from the chaff, right? This is where the great leaders will emerge. Yes. And empathy is the key word. You mentioned about the proactiveness side of it, right? And a lot of people on the call today would want to know how to plan. I mean, this is probably the most difficult and worst time to put a plan in place. Yeah. Yet everybody wants to have a plan in place, right? And then it has to be proactive and not reactive.
So I'll tell you a story, which is it's a little loka katha, where There was once, they say that when Lakshman got shot with an arrow and Ram looks at Hanuman and tells Hanuman ki are jaake sanjeevani lao, so it said Jambavan comes to Ram and says, please Hanuman ko boliye Ram says, find sanjeevani, sanjeevani ko dhondo. He says, nahi, बोलो ढूंढो और लेके आओ. I tell someone find a solution, I mean implement the solution. He's going to comply. He will do exactly what you told him to do. He will never take initiative. Compliance. Do not create proactive. Micromanaging all and telling people ye karna hai, cross checking 20,000 times, they murder innovation, they murder proactiveness. I've seen large companies which demand compliance and they want their executives to be compliant for 20 years of their life, and the 21st year when that leader becomes CEO, is abhi initiative. That man has never taken initiative, he only follows orders. Initiative is the ability to work in the absence of order, where you are able to figure out, okay, ये problem है, इसका ये solution है, उसको करने के लिए these are my resources, and the biggest resource over there is time. How do I manage my time? That's your biggest resource. Everybody has 24 hours only. What do I prioritize? What do I list? So this does not happen because somebody else will do it for me, especially in the IT sector where everything is done by technology.
Yeah.
This is a point that we need to have. We need to understand that we need to allow other people. Everything is not about compliance. Everything is not about tracking sheets. Nobody likes to follow a tracking sheet. We need a tracking sheet, of course, for companies, but allow people to make. If you are the one making the tracking sheet all the time, then you're not creating an ecosystem of proactiveness. So get others to create templates and get others to start doing it. Tell me how you're going to do it. Tell me how you don't tell them. Tell them to show it to you.
Makes sense.
And I think that's a simple trip. I always tell people कि उनको बोलो ना Excel sheet बनाने के लिए. Because you are very smart, you can do the Excel sheet very nicely. You have already thought through, but you have to create the next generation of leaders.
Absolutely.
So tell them, and their style is different. Our problem is their style is different, and that many leaders can't handle. They want everybody to do things. Clones chahiye, nahi hoga.
Yeah. And I think you raised, I mean, if the first point was about empathy, I think here it's all about empowerment, right? That's the key.
That is the key.
Fantastic. Let me move on to something, which is again a very top of the mind kind of thing for especially in the IT side of thing is, and you talked about innovation, right? Innovation in a time of crisis, right? Earlier days, innovation was all about business opportunities. Now it's a different kind of innovation that people expect to do, right?
Yeah.
What's the art of innovation? What's your thoughts on it?
I think if you get the basics right, then innovation are the details. I think sometimes we forget what are the basics. What are you offering your customer? Sometimes we just forget the basic thing. As I said, hunger. When I use the word hunger, keep asking what the customer is actually hungry for. I'll give you an example. When I was in the pharma sector, because we're farmers, we're going and selling medicines. And my boss would always tell me, Devdutt, हम लोग medicine नहीं बेच रहे हैं. वो डॉक्टर को मालूम है, he's intelligent, he knows what to give the patient. But look at the doctor carefully. The doctor is meeting 20,000 patients every day. He has no free time. He has no time to tell hello to his wife also. If you can make his life a little better, he will look at you. So you know what we would do? We would figure out when were the marriage anniversaries of all the doctors and remind the doctor. We have to be very careful. We don't go to the wife and says, Madam, aapke liye. The husband, because the lady doctors, so you have everything. So we would remind the doctor, 7 दिन के बाद sir आपका anniversary है. Now I am there to sell a medical drug, but by doing this little thing, because I realize my job is having a connection with the doctor. My job is not to sell drugs. So we redefine your role. then ideas will immediately come. If I didn't read, if my boss had not told me to redefine my role, you doctor तेरे क्या चाहता है? He has many problems. You can't solve all his problems, but then you can focus and then figure out. In the, like for example, in the IT sector, it could be something very trivial, but if you understand, a customer wants this from me. When I go to a Google or when I go to an Apple, when we say brand equity is trust. Now you will say trust क्या है? I said वो नाम से ही मेरे को I don't want to spend money. वो नाम ही मेरे को बोलेगा नहीं इनसे like today Facebook, China's brand equity has crashed. And they have to work very hard. I'm sure there are Chinese businessmen out there who are doing very good jobs, and they are saying that what have we done? We have not done anything. Now they have to innovate. They have to innovate ways of becoming trustworthy.
Absolutely. I think brilliant. I think the biggest takeaway is also for people like us, like vendors like us. Right? We are out there selling. What a beautiful analogy that you put in. Always look for the customer's win. Right? Always put that as a paramount, and then start thinking backwards. One final question from my side before I let you go is in all of these, leading through change, planning bit of it, right? We talked about, and the innovation part of it. What's the importance of information or knowledge or data, whatever you want to put it, right? How does that one single parameter comes into play when we talk about all of this?
It's about, in mythology, you'll always have the story that, Ravan and Jatayu were fighting, and then finally they were equally matched. And finally, Jatayu and they said, we are equals. You should tell me what is your weakest spot. And Jatayu very innocently tells it's my wings. And Ravan does not tell the truth. He says, it's my toe. He doesn't say it's my navel. And therefore Jatayu keeps on attacking Ravan's toe, and तो उसने अपना data को protect किया. Because when your data is exposed, you are vulnerable. And the thing is, we are all vulnerable if my bank statements are out there, and let's say I'm going to pitch for business, and the person in front of me knows that I'm desperate, I have no money in the bank, he will negotiate brutally. I cannot give him the benefit of that knowledge, and therefore data is, when you read or whether you read Drama and Mahabharata, spies play a very important role because it's all about data. At the very bottom line, there's data. I mean, it's a very bad word, but spy is about data. And now our data is everywhere. It's digital, right? Money is not a note. It is a number on a database somewhere in the universe. It is not a gold coin. Dinar nahi hai, guy nahi hai, zameen nahi hai. It is a number. So it is scary. We are dealing, and the world today doesn't understand. We don't understand. Hacking sunte hain. Somebody can just destroy your database and all that. So this makes data protection we are scared. Most young people in the world, 90% of people don't understand कि पैसा बदल गया. It's a number on a screen.
Yep.
That I think not yet sunk in. I mean, the IT guys know it, but I think the normal people, my sister, my brother, my cousins, they are still. When I tell them this, they're like, because they're using the phone, and I say, you know what? Your entire life is on the phone.
Yep.
And if I get access to your phone, I get access to some we have private details over here. I don't want it to be public. And I think that is where if that's why when I buy an Apple, somebody says, I somewhere it trust. I mean, which phone are you going to buy? So all those things, data, it's all about, we're thinking unconsciously about data.
Makes sense. And I think that's a beautiful segue so in terms of what I have to share. And I think I thank you for that, because you just led me to what I need to now build upon, and something which I've been inspired by you, as I said, and I've kind of put together a content which I firmly believe that the audience will like it. So let me just take them through quickly and then come back to you. Can I just be the host? Hello.
Yeah, Dharma, can we pass on the controls to Huzaifa?
Thank you. And just please confirm to me if you're able to see
Yeah,
my
we can
screen.
see it, Josefa. Please go ahead.
Good. I think this has led to a very nice segue into what I wanted to present, and specifically centered around data. I want to specifically get into things which are happening around us in terms of these times of pandemic. And I sat back and thought that what is it that businesses and are going through right now, and what is it that it comes down to? So when I was thinking into two parts, the dharma and the karma part, right? Dharma is something which you can think of, and as everybody would know, it's your lifelong duty. So think about dharma as what your organization goals are, right? Long-term goals are. And think of karma in terms of your day-to-day actions, right? If I have to just bifurcate this and then put and see everything from the lenses of dharma and karma, your organizations today, every business is right now, as we see, obviously the first paramount priority or a dharma or a duty is to enhance your end customers experience, right, as we spoke about. But what is that karma in times of pandemic that you as data custodians, you as IT people on the call are looking at is how do you boost that customer trust? While you want to enhance that experience, how do you ensure that it's done in an element of trust, right? That's your karma. If I've just built onto that, right, and now you get a gist of where I'm going. If the whole idea was to drive collaboration and learnings between the employees, so you get the best of it, if that's what the overall goal is, your karma comes down to in these times when the employee is no longer relegated to that cubicle in an office. People are remote, ripped out from that four walls. How do you ensure that the same level of collaboration and remote productivity goes on, right? So that's the action part of it, which you're supposed to carry on. Innovation is another thing, right? You constantly have heard that businesses who don't innovate die, right? That's been the constant mantra, right? That's the lifelong duty of an organization. But when you look at the karma right now, right, when we are looking at this pandemic, right, at the face of this pandemic, you folks are responsible, are going back and fortifying your core businesses, right? That's where maximum efforts are being put on. How do you help me fortify my original core, right? How do you help innovate on that piece of it? Increasing share profitability and shareholder value. Obviously, this is, as I said, is a number 101 of for any businesses. But when it comes to karma, when it comes to these pandemic times, you are right now responsible for balancing your organization's, your business's profitability, at the same time ensuring that your employees are protected, right? They are working, they're all remote, they're working within a sense of security, a sense of a trust that, hey, whatever I'm transacting, even if I'm out, it's happening in a very, very secure way. Last but not the least, as a business, you have to have a business continuity plan, right? If your IT systems are down, if your systems are down, your businesses are down. That's a 101. That's the dharma. That's the duty in terms of your business applications. But your karma, which is what we saw in the time of pandemic, is how do you keep testing this business continuity? How do you ensure that when something really happens, you are ready and equipped with it? So now you get a picture of where your organization and business is looking at, and where you come in from a karma perspective. Now let me twist this a bit. Let's talk about your universe, your Brahman, right? And people on the call, your Brahman is revolving around data. But what are the challenges towards achieving your karma? I bucket it into three parts. Number one, the size of data, right? This is only increasing by the minute, right? We have created more data in the last 2 or 3 years alone than we have created from time eternity, right? And when I look at this picture, what amazes me is two things. One, the unstructured data, right, has taken really precedence over the good old days when it was a balance of structured and unstructured data. So you had these databases and stuff. Now, this data is being generated all across, not only by humans, but even machines, right? So this unstructured data is growing. And the biggest issue is visibility of this data, right? It's complete, and 55% of it, and going by the analysis that we have, 55% of it is dark data, which means as an IT custodian, you don't have an idea of who generated how and is it important to business. Challenge number two, we kind of segued into the last question, which Mr. Patnaik also touched upon, is as this value of data is increasing, so are the number of bad people going after this data. And you'll be very surprised that, when you look at the actors, right, it's not as if, only the external people are going after this sensitive data or data, right? It could be your internal employees, whether it's malicious or non-malicious, right? Are potentially the actors. And what are they going after? They're going after sensitive data, right? We spoke about a little while back, right? It could be your customer's credit card details, your Aadhaar card number. People are going for a deletion, right? It could be either malicious or accidental. There could be corruption in all of that. And last but not the least, the most talked after right now, which is ransomware, right? Which is bad guys going after the data, not with the intention of stealing it, but just locking it and asking you for money in response for that key. Now, the statistics which you'll see down is you could have the best of security running, protecting your perimeter or your system, but the best and safest way is to have a good copy of your data at all times to help you overcome. We'll talk about that, but this is challenge number two in your Brahman. Number three, which is getting a lot of precedence, is people want to adopt cloud. People want to get into the platform for agility. People want to get in, take benefit of economies of scale. But the reality on the ground, and you'll identify this, right, for people in your Brahman, is it's not as easy as deciding from day one, hey, I want to just pick this up, move this thing into the cloud. You need to have so much of consideration about what that data is. Is it sensitive? Is it complex to migrate? To which cloud, right? And if you look around, multi-cloud is the reality. Why? Because not one cloud is the panacea or the answer for everything. You could have a hyperscaler public cloud approach, or you could have SaaS, which is coming in and solving one. You can't control that, right? Your data is going to come up, and it's going to come up, and your business sensitive data is going to come up in various different platforms. The decision is yours as a custodian of IT, of how you take that journey, where should you go, and once you go there, how do you manage this? It's a complexity of sort, right? So this is in your Brahman. I kind of put it into three buckets: the data size, the threat vectors, and the adoption of cloud. Now let's look at what is expected out of you. I would like to call all of you to come here and take this, wear this hat of being a Trimurti of IT, right? Wear these three avatars, and let me break it down. And before I break down and tell you what these three avatars mean from an IT custodian world, the first thing required for any universe is to have a balance, right? And that balance comes in by one single thing, which is a universal platform, one platform. And let me break it down. If you look at your data center today, you're talking about your data being generated in, no longer relegated to that data center, but we are talking about the end devices, mobile devices. We are talking about data being generated in cloud. We are talking about your data being generated in your virtual machines, your private cloud, name it. It's all over the place, right? And you, as IT custodians, are supposed to drive all of these use cases around snapshots, around replication, protecting that data, ensuring that that sensitive data is, you have visibility to it, you have protected it, and it's complied with. Correct? In all of these, you end up putting multiple tools and effort. And that just kind of adds to the complexity. Now, if I look at it from, as I said, from balance perspective, we could get one single platform to drive out, help you in this journey. How this will help? First, Vishnu avatar, right? What does a Vishnu avatar do? If you wear this as a hat, as an IT custodian, the biggest thing it does is preserver of good data, right? So you have in your earlier example, you have your data all across the place. You have used multiple tools to kind of drive different things. It could be as basic as backup recovery to disaster recovery to archiving to compliance. Now is the time to break down this silo, as I said, into one platform, because that itself will drive so much of efficiency in terms of your infrastructure, in terms of the people required to manage it, and all you end up is one simple, easy to use tool to take care of all your data needs and ensure that it's protected irrespective of which platform that data is generated. Your good data is assured to be protected, and in this process you end up not only saving from an infrastructure but reducing your risk as well and increasing your efficiency. So that's the vision of that. Let me quickly move on to the second one. Where do you wear the Brahma? What's Brahma? Very clearly, he's the creator. He's the creator of actionable insights, right? So you took control of your data. What now that you've done a good job of preserving that data, what are you going to drive on top of that, right? You're going to drive some very, very good insight by analyzing that data, helping you visualize it, and then help you act on it. Not just on your backed up data, on your secondary copy, but also on your primary live data where it is getting generated, irrespective of whichever platform you look at, right? So creation of this actionable insight is absolutely paramount, because this is where it will help you what that data is. Is it sensitive, right? Is it somebody's credit card? Is it somebody's social security number? Is it somebody's bank account, right? You classify, you visualize it, and then you can act on it based on the compliance needs, right? Very soon we are going to have the India Data Protection Act, and this is where the entire information governance is leading into. Finally, the last piece: when do you wear your Shiva avatar hat, right? This is where you have to destroy illicit access data and access to your data, right? This is where you need to come in and show that whatever data you've preserved, you're destroying people who are, not supposed to get access to it. You can do it simply, if I have to tell you, going by the back analogy, if you have consolidated into one platform, all you need to take care of is this platform. You harden this platform, you ensure that whoever is accessing this platform has the right authority, authorization, and accountability while doing it. And if I add on to that, from a ransomware perspective, the attacks are getting sophisticated. They're not just going after your production data primary, but they also know where your secondary data is. So you need to have some additional advanced AI-based mechanism to kind of protect this, and that's what this platform, to finally isolating the data across the network. All of these ensures that your data stays in. Bad data which is lying across. In the earlier case, you have got visibility. Hey, my sensitive data has been lying in some X system and it's not as protected. Specifically go and delete that, because it's not supposed to lie there. So you're deleting bad data, and you're ensuring that that illicit access is controlled. So that, in a nutshell, is what my three avatars look like to help you. And why us? Just to kind of round it off, I think this is just one single slide kind of concept. One, that Brahmand of yours needs a balance. This platform gives you those tools to kind of ensure that irrespective of whatever the data, look at the size of the data that we're in. It's exabytes and exabytes. You can sleep peacefully. This platform will take care of ensuring that all your good data is preserved. It's in terms of success rate. I mean, this is all of you on this call, right? When the businesses asks us for data, in case of whether it's a disaster or anything, no is not the answer, right? So look at the success rate in terms of how you can bring that data back. And finally, look at the left side of your picture. It's a very technology-driven company. 812 active technology patents is far more than the second and third player in the industry. And most importantly, we've been recognized for our scales, for our depth, for the platform industry. So you'll see very soon the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which is due anytime today. For the last 8 years, we are in the leader quadrant, and the ninth one is out today. I'm not going to spill the beans, but watch out for that today. I was not surprised, and you will also be not be surprised where you find Commvault. So with that, I want to just end it. I hope I could pick pieces from Mr. Patnaik's thought process, kind of put that across in a different package, and put across that in a way which you can relate to from a day-to-day life into your problems. Back to you, Krishna.
Thank you, Josefa. That was amazing. In fact, that's great to see how you have brought in that data in mythological avatar. Great, amazing. So moving on, we are moving on to this Q&A session. I would request Mr. Devdutt Patnaik to join us for this Q&A session. Mr. Patnaik, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Okay, so great. So I would ask my first question to Mr. Patnaik that many a times businesses feel like they are stuck in a Chakravyuh. They are in, but they don't know that how to get out of this, problem. So do you have any suggestion for those businesses?
Well, the thing is, when we get trapped in situations, sometimes you have to learn what is not necessary in our business. Sometimes we waste our time. We need to prioritize and decide that, some things we have to let go. And if you don't learn to let go, you will stay trapped. Everything is not important. It's okay to lose a few battles. And I think that is a very important list to make regularly, which battles you're okay losing. If you try to win every battle, then you'll stay trapped. If you want to get out of things, then you should have to decide, okay, I'm willing to lose these couple of things, and it's fine. You have to look at the big picture and decide what you are willing to give up.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. So let me bring Josefa also here. Josefa, like you mentioned so much about data, and just tell me, if we are stuck in a data-related problem, like many a times we feel that we are in a Chakravyuh, or we have some legacy architecture which is, not helping us at all. So how to take the next step? If you can correlate this to your answer.
No, I think it's a great question because a lot of businesses are stuck right now as we speak between the thought of legacy architecture and how do I modernize that and move forward. I think going back to the same thing I said, right? That platform, somebody like Commvault, which understands both the things, both the worlds, right? We take pride in ourselves that yes, we have been around for years and we understand the legacy workload, and we'll help you migrate and adopt this new architecture. So somebody like us can come in, understand that legacy, take a copy of that data, and help you modernize and get towards that. So, for example, if I have to just put in and be very specific, Commvault can come in, take in your physical, servers in your environment and do a P2V migration, or take some of the legacy old VMs and help you migrate, convert, and adopt to hyperscaler clouds like AWS or you name it, right? So we act as that glue, a nice balance between the legacy and the modernization. And data is the key.
That's right. Thank you. So, Josefa, let me ask you this: that how can you help organization become GDPR compliant? Because when it comes to legacy on all, compliance is an important issue here. So, how can we do that?
Yeah, excellent. The second pillar, let me go back to what I said in terms of driving data insights, right? Creating data insight. That's where the compliance angle comes in because you need to have a visualization. Everything starts with analyzing your current data, and it doesn't matter where the data is. It could be in your legacy system, right? We understand that, or it could be generating from some of the other newest ones. First bit is to analyze and then help you classify and visualize that, hey, this is a sensitive data. Somebody like GDPR, which is a European thing, but very soon we'll have the Indian one. This data is classified as a sensitive data or a personally identifiable information, PII, of your customer. It can help you classify and then help you put controls around. So absolutely, driving that insight, analyze, visualize, and remediate. Take actions on it based on the GDPR compliance.
GDPR, absolutely. So let me turn to Mr. Patnaik now. Mr. Patnaik, keeping in mind the current pandemic situation, okay, so how do you read this year 2020? There are many businesses who are struggling, as you also mentioned during your session, that so many people, they are being given pink slips and they are struggling, and businesses are also struggling maintaining their ecosystem right. So how do you read this entire year 2020, and in your book, like how, if you have some thoughts around that?
Really, one thing I've noticed is that nobody really knows what's going to happen. We really, really don't know. We know it's going to end, but we don't know whether 3 months from today, 6 months from today, 1 year from today. I don't think so. But I think keeping a past in mind, none of us remembered that in the 1920s there was a great flu epidemic, and many people died because of the plague, and many people died because of the flu in the early 20th century. None of us knew it. I mean, the data is there now. We are getting articles about it. So in the sense, we will forget about this, and life will carry on. But I think this would be a period of trauma that will shape many people, because for the first time, for many young people, this is the first major trauma that they experienced. We were a generation of what is called zoomers now, zoomers and boomers, and this generation of rather affluent, because we had access to technology. We suddenly have come to a world where we कल को job नहीं होगा तो क्या होगा, all those questions are going to happen. Consumption patterns are going to change dramatically. People are not going to spend. So we have to rethink about how people are going to invest a lot in technology. They're going to invest a lot in data protection, because ultimately, if people will see IT sector is where the jobs continued even in this lockdown. So lots of young talent will try to move in this direction. Companies which were hesitating to move into the IT sector would suddenly now push data over here. So that's going to happen. Those changes are going to happen. The brick and mortar world, people will start re-looking at the relationship between the virtual world and the brick and mortar world a lot. And keeping data on your, the soft data, the cloud data, all those things are going to become important, because those who had access to that could work easily. I know film industry has to work remotely. So now suddenly that world is going to become like a life force. Because we don't know if the virus is going to come back 5 years from today or 10 years from today. It can. And people are going to work with that reality of mind. We had forgotten the idea of crisis. Such a crisis. We had thought that we are all sub
So this is the new normal, exactly. So this technology era is the new normal, and we have to work remotely. Huzifa, how do you see the businesses changing of late in 2020? Like, are you providing new solution? You mentioned during your session also that you are launching some of new solutions and all that. So how do you think business demand, supplies, entire change is getting evolved in this year?
Yeah, specifically, if you talk about this year, I see the trends which I mentioned, right? There are two or three trends which are happening. One, which is very, very clear, that help us keep the lights on, help us run the business optimally, right? Have to save costs, at the same time be more efficient. The second thing, which is getting a lot of precedent in these times, and again, I'm talking about the change in this, IT priorities, is the number of attacks happening on that data. Number of bad people going after data has increased. So people really, really want that visualization capability. Really want that help us fortify that data, help us keep a good copy of it around. The third element is people have been, businesses have been forced to kind of look at multi-cloud models, because the pandemic was the biggest learning, right? It has pushed digital disruption like anything, right? You want to keep the businesses running undisrupted, which has kind of led to this push or adoption. With this three in mind, our mantra and the set of solutions that we are getting, it's no longer as simple as backup and recovery and relegated to that. Me and the entire team at Commvault are elevating that conversations with our customers to help go that extra mile and figure out how we can help with our set of solutions, whether it's about backup recovery, whether it's about disaster recovery, whether it's about information governance, how we ensure that we help optimize the cost, keep the data protected, and take them to that next architecture. So it's no longer relegated to that backup recovery only or creating a copy of the data. It's expanding all across, and I think my team are all equipped. And as we speak, we are working with a lot of customers in helping them do that.
Exactly. Thanks, Josefa, for that. And I have a couple of questions for you, Josefa. So here, the first one is, does Commvault have a DR solution?
Great question, because only yesterday we announced our standalone full-fledged DR solution. Irrespective of whatever platform you are on, whichever technology, underlying solution technology, people earlier used to bucket us and join backup and recovery at the hip with us. The good news is we're launching our own standalone disaster recovery solution, specifically around the virtual machine environment, specifically around unstructured data like files and databases, right? So that's something which is out. And, just this is fresh off the oven, and it will help you. You don't have to worry on the what's lying underneath the hood. We take care of the overlying technology. At the end of the day, you just get a single dashboard to kind of fail over, fail back, and ensure business continues.
Okay, thanks for that. So here, another one, can I opt for Commvault solution if I already have a different backup vendor in my IT setup?
Yes. So it depends on the use case. As I said, you are using one solution right now to achieve one means, one outcome, which is just the backup piece of it. The other use case is about information governance. Other use cases about where are you storing this backup data? What is that secondary storage? Right, that is going through a phenomenal change. Things like disaster recovery, right, for switching over and ensure all of these can lie over and above augmenting your existing solution.
Thanks, Josefa, and thank you, Mr. Patnaik. With that, we have to wrap the session here. But before I wrap, let me ask you, Mr. Patnaik, your key takeaway. Though we heard a lot from you about leadership, about data, about solving business problems, but one key takeaway for our audience today.
I think the key word for me is going to be empathy. If you want to go ahead in the new world order, I think business empathy, empathy with your customers, empathy with your employees is where the shift will happen. So it's not about your ambition, but it is about your empathy that will decide your future.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Empathy is the mantra. So, and Josefa, if you can help us with your final word.
No, for me, the biggest takeaway was, as I said, empathy, empowerment, all of that being driven by true data, right, by true knowledge as the underlying theme. And while you do that in your personal life, as you go through this pandemic, allow us to be the trusted advisors, the trusted choice for your businesses. We are your friends in this part, right? We are your trusted advisors. So allow us to guide us through that, and we have to help, at least on the professional front.
Thank you. Thanks, Josefa. And I am also taking Murthy of IT, which you elaborated, I think, quite lucidly. Really like that presentation. Thank you, Josefa, and thank you, Mr. Patnaik. It was great having you both today in ET and Wire session. And thank you, delegates, for being so nice audience with us. With that, let's wrap the session. For more such sessions, stay tuned to ET Unwired. Be safe, be healthy. Thank you for joining this ET Unwired session powered by Commvault. Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.